demons, if there's anything else that you find relevant. Again, like I haven't read that one yet, so this is where you guys can really help me out here and fill us in. I mean, are there any explicit references to secret societies? I know that Tristan, you had kind of mentioned that the other day in your talk.
I mean, it's like the whole thing is based around these circles and these groups of five, which is all reflecting kind of the I go in my last couple streams, I go through and kind of show the historical references that are implicit in the revolutionary model that's being employed by Piotr and Stavrogan and these revolutionaries in the groups. So yeah, they openly are referencing the ideas of the group of five, the circle, and the circles that are just a chain. He says at one point, he says, he implies to the other people in this group that you are part of this small group, and it's a part of a large chain, a long rope, and there are 1,000 knots in this rope going all throughout Europe and Russia, and we are going to bring about this great upheaval, and even we're going to bring
you had
about
said
this.
One of the characters references the Jacobins, and so that would be a pretty direct connection to the real Illuminists.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Babeuf, Weishaupt. I mean, these people, these historical revolutionaries, actually employed the same exact methods that are being demonstrated here, and they had the same worldview, right? Like what Mark was mentioning just a minute ago. He's talking about Shigoyevism, right? I was looking for the quote, but he, it says, Mr. Shigoyev is all too seriously devoted to this task, and what's more, it's too modest. I know his book. He suggests, as a final solution to the question, the division of mankind into two unequal parts. 1/10 is granted freedom of person and unlimited rights over the remaining 9/10. These must lose their person and turn into something like a herd, and in unlimited obedience through a series of regenerations, attain to a primeval innocence, something like the primeval paradise. Though, by the way, they will have to work. The measures proposed by the author for removing the will of 9/10 of mankind and remaking them into a herd by means of a re-educating of entire generations are quite remarkable based on natural facts and extremely logical. One may disagree with certain conclusions, but it's difficult to doubt the author's intelligence and knowledge. So this is another character talking about Shigoyev's idea here. So yeah, 1/10 of you will have liberty, and 9/10 of you will have equality. Well, the 1/10 will also have
and slavery. Yeah,
right.
So they're reconciling the revolutionary, the retard trinity of liberty, fraternity, and equality, which is this is empty slogans. But those empty slogans are really kind of diametrically opposed. The concept of liberty and fraternity. I'm sorry, liberty and equality. Just those two. Those can't exist together. If you have liberty, how can you have equality? Right, so that you will have 1/10 that will have liberty and rights over all the other 9/10, and they'll have equality as slaves in a herd, and they'll be re-educated over generations. He says.
Oh, really? So it's a generational re-education camp.
And he speaks specifically about that re-education. It's basically pushing degeneracy. Everyone informs on each other. Total surveillance. Just anti-intellectualism.
And also
total dysgenics.
Yeah, and also destruction of the family. And he talks about, he's like, look, people aren't going to church. Look how much people are drinking. There's vodka everywhere. He's like, I saw a little girl swearing at her mother the other day. And he's like, I know it's bad. We'll stop it one day, but we need to accelerate this now. And then we're going to basically, we'll be the kings. He's like, and he even says, we'll get the Pope involved. The Pope will be down for it. The Pope he'll embrace this. And all the things.
You're saying the revolutionaries say that?
The revolutionary Piotr says we'll get the Pope.
Wow,
says,
because that's
very interesting.
Well, that's what the Grand Inquisitor says.
World Economic Forum.
Yeah, and the Grand Inquisitor says that too, more or less.
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same. It's the third temptation of Christ.
Yeah.
Where worldly power is offered. If you bow down to the rebel angel. Yeah, it's the same. Same dynamic.
And Jay, you mentioned like the idea, the conspiratorial circles and stuff. At one point, a character, the liberal father of Piotr, his name is Stepan Trofimovich, and he's basically he's like Jordan Peterson. He's he's very much like Jordan Peterson. He's this kind of bumbling liberal who's this great poet, professor, and he's always talking about how he's about to write something great, but he's never really written anything. And he just kind of, he's not a full-on nihilist. He's not the most liberal, but he's liberal enough where he wants to be perceived as liberal. And, you know, he's a great character.
Is he does he represent classical liberalism?
He very much embraces classical liberalism, and then actually he does have a great redemption arc. So, you know, that's, I do compare it to Jordan Peterson, but it's not in a denigrating way. Stepan Trofimovich ends up embracing Christ in the end, and is a beautiful character. Anyways, his house gets raided. He pisses some people off, and his house gets raided, and they take a bunch of his papers and pamphlets or whatever is in his house. And somebody comes and speaking to him and is like, "Look, are you a member of a secret society?" And he's like, I don't know. he goes, "I don't know. These days, how could you even tell?" Like, so this idea of the secret society is all throughout the book. And then when one character is asked about it, he doesn't even know if he was ever initiated a secret society. He has to really think about it. So this kind of shows you how these things are they permeate the world that they live in these liberal circles.
Yeah. And it's you'd love it, Jay, because it's highly conspiratorial. I mean, it's really cool. Like, you have of Verkhovensky, Pyotr Stepanich. He, the leader of the revolutionary cell, he does stuff like he's in league with a bandit, a criminal that he uses to basically carry out attacks. And, you know, kind of like terror, like this criminal, his name is Fedya. He hires him to, like, burn down a church and desecrate icons, stuff like that, which just kind of reminds one of, you know, the ties between these types of revolutionary groups and intelligence services and organized crime. He also, the other crazy thing he does is that with the ideologue Kirillov, and Kirillov we got to discuss as well. Kirillov, and let's discuss just to make sure, because these are really cool things. But Kirillov, Stavrogin, and then right now we're talking about Verkhovensky. But Verkhovensky basically uses the ideologue Kirillov, who has this theory about basically killing oneself to kill God and to basically transfigure through death by killing one's own fear. But he uses Kirillov as an asset, and when the time comes, Kirillov takes blame for a murder that the cell had committed, and that's when. So that kind of kicks off once Kirillov does that and then commits suicide, that kicks off all the chaos, and that's kind of one of the signals to start the revolution. And there's even in
so it's almost like a demonic version of sacrifice.
Yeah, yes. He agrees to kill himself. They make him agree to kill himself, but they're like, you have to. He wants to kill himself as this, you know, this ultimate act of nihilism, and you become God. Like, if you are able to if you kill yourself, we all kill ourselves, we'll all become God, and we'll transcend, we'll transcend everything, and negate everything. It's this really weird, but kind of
it's like an inverse transfiguration.
Yeah, because sacrifice is going to play a big role in crime and punishment. Is why I'm asking. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but he wants to kill himself, right? And they all know he wants to kill himself, and he's always talking about it, and he's always telling everybody how I'm trying to figure out why more people don't kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is his academic work is he's writing a piece on why are more people not killing themselves.
Well, and the existentialists take a big they'll use that quite a bit, because that becomes a big thing for.
But it's hilarious. Piotr tells him, well, yeah, you can kill yourself. That's your free will. But you have to do it when we want you to do it, right? So it's like this demonic hijacking of his ultimate act of free will. But yeah, you're free to do this. You can kill yourself, but when I say, and also I'm gonna help you write the suicide letter so that you are exonerating all of our criminal activity that we just engaged in. And
so I didn't know this. I mean, this sounds like Sartre, like just ripping this directly off, because I mean, a big part of some of the debates and discussions that Sartre has, I think he wrote one of these weird short stories think it's called The Wall, which is a pretty crazy short story that he did. And the whole the whole point of that story is like, maybe you should just, you know, kill yourself, because like, isn't that the real act of freedom? And it harkens to what you guys are talking about here.
Yeah, and yeah, Kirillov is a fascinating character, and it's really that's like some of the best dialogue in the book is his you know, kind of him delving into this notion of overcoming his own fear of death, and the he's trying, and he also wants to kill the idea of God that torments him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so and he can only do that by killing himself and then becoming a god. It's really nutty.
No, I mean, Sartre says that very thing. I mean, Sartre was like super blasphemous, and so I just didn't realize that like so much of what he was. I mean, he sounds like a character out of a Dostoevsky novel, is what's kind of blown me away. But
yeah.
Last question for you.
Speaking of like sacrifice, right? You mentioned like sacrifice and the demonic idea of sacrifice. That's throughout the novel as well, especially in the climax of the novel during the fire, right? And the, you know, the symbol of the revolutionary fire, this kind of Promethean fire moving from the icon lamps, the icon stands, and into the houses and burning everything down to bring about this new order is like the climax of the novel in many respects. But then there is another scene where Piotr Verkhoviensky is talking to Stavrogin, and he's manic, and he's trying to get Stavrogin to kind of come back into this revolutionary movement. Stavrogin is a nihilist, but he's kind of like, man, you guys are nuts. He seems to not be.
Yeah, Stavrogin is above everything. He is like he's a Superman. He's an Antichrist figure.
Yeah.
But
he's too cool for the nihilist. He's like, man, you guys are fake and gay. Like, I'm not getting involved in your revolutionary movement anymore. I don't care about this. I'm even beyond this, right? And he's just into self-degradation, really. And Piotr's trying to get him involved in this thing. He's telling him, look, I got all these people. I give them ranks, and this is how I keep them together, and I keep them bound together, and I control them through their through the passions and through flattery. He's telling him all the methods that he uses, which is just this demonic playbook, right? And then Stavrogin's like, man, you're giving me all these ways that you bind them together. Yeah, that's fine and all, but you know how you really bind people together in a circle? And they're talking about the group of 5, right? You get 4 members of the circle to knock off the 5th member under the pretext that he's an informant, and then you bind them all together with that blood, and you own them, and they're your slaves. So it basically tells them, you know, human sacrifice is the real way that you're going to control these people. All the other stuff is just petty, essentially.
And that is carried out in the book, and it's like the atmosphere is that of like an occult ritual. Yeah, it's dark.
I was about to ask if there's like that kind of a theme there, like a I mean, the circle of 5. I mean, this sounds like a magic circle, and the 5 points of the pentagram. I mean, it seems to. I mean, I don't know, but it sounds like that's what I think of when I hear that.
Yeah, but he doesn't get explicitly into the occult,
right.
But they do. He even references Dostoevsky references. Yeah, Stavrogin gets accused by Shatov, was another great character. He gets accused of he says, is it true that you were involved in secret societies? Is it in occult, like secret societies? Is it true that you were involved in, you know, degrading children? And basically says, what do you say? I think he says, were you involved in degrading children and involved in a secret society that were,
and also like orgies and stuff
yeah, he
like
said that would make the Marquis de Sade blush or something like
Yeah.
that, right? So they reference kind of like the French
Well.